So we're going to be looking at the Wave 7 60-minute 50-day, like presented down here. And this goes into our yellow box strategy. So we just go up here and make sure we click on ESF for futures. This is primarily what I trade and use. So we have this open on the 7 wave 60-minute. And then we'll go into the option analyzer. And this is where we'll derive our levels from. So what we want to do is go into here, and we want to select by today's close when deriving levels for the following day. And then what I do is I click up here and expand, drop this down a little bit so we have a better visual here. So you notice the price here is at 41.90.75. We want to make sure that's selected down here too at the current. So we do these when the market closes. So for futures, it officially closes at 5 p.m. and then opens back up at 6 p.m. So if you want to get the most accurate levels, you want to do it when the market's closed, when deriving it for the next day. So we have this selected at the current. The market is closed now. We have at the 41.90.75. So we take a look at this chart here. So for obvious reasons, it's called the yellow box strategy. So everything in between these averages is the yellow box. So this is the normal expected range where we'll spend probably 80 to 90% of our time normally trading in this yellow zone. And you can kind of see how that correlates with all the bars, inside bars here. And each one of these bars is an hourly bar, a 60-minute bar. Just like you can see down here, the 7 wave 50 count. I guess it doesn't present on here with the 60-minute. But we want to go in here and we want to derive these levels. So we'll record these average levels here for the yellow box. So we got 41.96, 34, and then we got the 41.85.09. And then next we want to kind of derive and see where is kind of our outlier zones. Like I know we have the 50% markup here, but if you kind of look at this reference, how many times do we actually touch this bar up here, the 50% average? Only one time. So what we want to do is kind of toggle through here, making sure we're on the current, and reference up and see where the average next touch line is. So we can see we got multiple bars kind of ending here and touching here. So we want to kind of find the best area where the highest range kind of is to where the most bars end. So we can toggle up one more time. We see we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bars kind of touching here. And then the top of these bars kind of count too, because it's pretty close. It's within a 0.25% or a 0.25%. So right in between this range here is kind of the sweet spot where we want to look at the average level here. And this is kind of where we start walking into resistance. So if we were to trade the next day, this would be kind of the area where we look for the first set of resistance. Now resistance is only resistance until proven otherwise. So if it breaks out, it can trade more up to here to this outlier zone. So we'll record this level at the 0.4%. And you can look down here and it'll give you the exacting price there. So we got 42.07.51. And then we want to find where is kind of our max outlier. So we look up here to this range where the max bar is. So if we're looking at a regular measured volatility day, as this chart measures, it measures all the past volatility within the last 50 days. So this is an algorithm in an amplitude form that measures these frequencies of the market. So we know on a normal day, this would be our max range. Now we do have outlier days if we have a strong trend day. So we could say, within 80% of the time or so, maybe 75% of the time, we won't exceed this, but we do have outliers. So we'll keep that in mind. So let's derive that level. Let's toggle up further until we find it. So we're at our 0.8% mark all the way up here. So this will set our max normal range. So we can come down here and derive that price again at the 42.24. And then next we want to do the same thing, but on the opposite side for the downside. So we want to come down, toggle back down. We're still on the 41.90, 41.90.75 current. Double check. If you accidentally happen to hit one of these other levels or reset, it will reset the price there. So let's toggle down and find where the most bars kind of touch and end down here for our support zone. So this is a measured move about normal volatility. We want to find that initial support there. So this is pretty close at the 0.4%. We want to toggle down one more time and kind of see where we're at. So we know the sweet spot for support is between 0.5% and 0.4% move. So I kind of like to give myself just a hair of room. So if there's just a tiny gap right now, that's fine. In the next update we'll be doing it where you can click to mouse, so you can be exacting on these reference points if you choose to. But I like it just like this. It works very well. So we have the price point here at 41.69.80. So we'll record that. So the next we want to find the extreme outlier, right? So we look for the furthest bar out. So this happens to be our furthest bar out. So this is going to be the max measured volatility move, the normal volatility move. So we'll toggle down. It's about 0.7. We can go to about 0.8, just a hair underneath it for the max move on this. So I'll use that as the sweet spot, between 0.7 and 0.8. And we can come down here and reference that. I mean, we do have a number over here at 41.56.34, but I'm going to generate this number here off of what I toggled, the 41.57.22, and we'll record that. So now we have our levels. We have the top range here, which is the expected max range move of volatility. We have our next move right here, which is our initial support or initial resistance. Then we have initial support down here, and then a kind of our max range down here. So we'll go in and we'll analyze our charts and make them. So what we have here is this last week's range. And I charted and tracked it all week. So what we just did to derive those functions of those prices is what you see here. So our initial resistance up here, and then our max measured range up here. And we have our initial support here, and then our max range down here. Now you can look at this two ways. We have our range days and trend days. And as you can observe on our range days, on our normal measured volatility, it obeys it very, very well. So there's strategy in this if we look at it. So first, let's derive our chart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create our levels for Monday. And you can select any time period you like on this. Typically, I'll have this on the 5 or toggle back in between that and the 15th. So all I'm going to do is just copy these levels over, these zones over. So now we'll record those levels that we derived from the options analyzer, wave 7, 60-minute, 50-day. So we'll stop with our top range here. And we have the top of our mark at 42.24.28. So we'll enter that in. And then the bottom of that red zone, we'll enter this in here for our initial resistance at 42.07.51. We'll click this and apply. So now we have that. Then we'll do a yellow box here where 70 to 80% of our normal trading volume is typically conducted. So we have 41.96.34. And then we have 41.85.09. And you can round these off as well. They don't have to be exacting like that. So click apply. And then we'll do our support long zone structures down here. So we have 41.69 as our top level there as initial support. And then our max range will be the bottom value down here. We have that at 41.5722. I'm going to click apply. So now we have Monday's range here. So I'm just going to click these over for visual. So now we have this range set here. So now let's go back and let's review the strategy on this. I'll toggle it back to the 15 just for easier visual. Okay, so let's review the strategy in this. So there's some really good strategy and it's pretty simple. So don't overcomplicate it. We can review Monday's price action. So what we're looking for here is a break of the yellow zone. So you can think of this as finding directionality with confirmation. So as we can see here on Monday, we break to the downside on the yellow zone. So what I do is I set an order here, a bracket order. So I have a sell order here, and we'll do a visual on this as well. So if you were to sell a bracket order, set it up here. We're looking for the break here to enter on the bottom of the yellow zone. And what we want to do is set our stop at the top of the yellow zone, and we'll take our initial profit at the touch of our support zone. So this is easy money right here, almost a 1-to-1. We got 11-point move there and 12 points, so a little less than 1-to-1 range here. But still pretty decent risk to reward given the high probabilities of the strategy playing out. So this is right here, you would have made easy 11 points. Take your first easy money right there at the first touch. Stops didn't get taken out, and you're protected on your risk management here. And then we'll look at the next strategy here. So this is a range day. So if you want to play the safe money, this is a through and through consistent strategy every day. If you played one trade every day, this is what you would do. Now, if you wanted to play a range day or a full trend day, you'd look for the break of this. So we look for the break of the initial yellow zone. We take our first money at the first support line here. And then you can leave your runners on a touch of the max range. So you can take your core off here, leave your runners down here. And if you want to take runners, you can take runners further. This is an extreme outlier day. So this is when we had jacks flip. So it sold off really, really hard. So this is not a normal trading day. What we want to look for is easy and consistent. So you have two targets right here, easy money. And then we have Wednesday, same setup. To look for the break of the yellow zone. Our first touch of the support structure there at 40.9829. You got your core off. You got your stops up here. And typically what you want to do is once you're in the money here, you want to set your trailing stops with this so you never go negative after being green. And you can usually do this after about, say, 4 or 5 points. That way you're safe. And then it comes right in the money and you're protected. So no matter what, you're profitable on the strategy. And then the same here, take your second money off, your runners down here on the bottom side. Same setup we got for Thursday. So we have the data release here, economic data at, I think it was like 9:30 a.m., 10 a.m. And we ended up having a volatile move, but we had the break up of yellow into our first resistance. Take your core off, runners up to your second target. And if you want to leave some additional, so be it. So we're looking at the yellow zone to break out here. We got our directionality. Take our initial play. Stops at the bottom of our yellow zone. Profit at first touch of resistance there. And then we can take our core off there. Our runners to the top. Take our second level core off and leave runners if you choose. And then we can look into Friday's action. Same exact setup. So we look for the initial break of the yellow zone. We got our initial break. We're taking it, take our money off at the bottom here at our support. You would have got your free points there with your core. You would have had your trailing stops. So you would have expired right in the money. Now this is where we watch too when we see these reversals. So when we see these supports off these measured volatility moves, just like we were looking when we were deriving levels, those are our initial bounce levels if it's going to bounce. So we took our core off. We move our stops down for runners. We would have tagged our runners off if you would have left them on. And then if you wanted to, after the open there, you could have taken the initial break for the same setup to the upside there. But usually what I do is I'm only taking the first initial trade. So we're looking for consistency and we're not trying to chase. So always you can set your bracket orders for the initial break, money off, core off, same thing, break, core off, break, core off, break, core off, break, core off. And if you look at this, I mean, nothing's 100%, but for last week, this was 100% success rate on this. You could have played just one play a day and made a pretty good chunk of change there. Now we have our levels set for Sunday evening into Monday's range for futures for on the S&P 500. And we're all set for that.